Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome this evening's guest moderator, Eric Davis from Fandango.com, and tonight's guest, Roland Emmerich.
Thank you so much for coming tonight and braving the heat and coming out here. We know it's summer outside, and we know it's summer if I'm sitting next to this guy. He's made a ton of awesome movies over the years, and I'm going to preface my first question with a little story, if I can. The year is 1996. I'm a teenage obsessed with movies, teenager in high school. And the only way you can watch trailers, back then, you couldn't go to Apple and just like download every trailer every minute of your day. You had like your Super Bowl commercial and that was it. And then you're just like, you're holding, waiting for months for the movie to come out. And that was Independence Day for me. I saw this trailer, I think it was around the Super Bowl, they premiered their first trailer, and it just blew my mind. And my friends and I were just freaked for it. So opening day, we're on the line, we're waiting, and we sat in the fourth row. Like for 2 hours, our mouths are open while the movie just injected awesome into us for 2.5 hours. And I just watched it over this weekend, and it's on TV, so you can see it. And when I walked out of there, I high-fived my friends, and I felt good for the rest of the summer. And I said to myself, this is the perfect summer movie because it has everything. And when I left White House down, I had this same sort of feeling I just had a great time at the movies. And so I tell this story because I feel like Independence Day, White House Down has it all. It has action, it has humor, it has heart, it has drama, it has good bad guys, great good guys, and an awesome cast. To you, what's the most important ingredient in that recipe for you to get right?
It's always a little bit, that you have to be lucky, because it's not only that there's a lot of luck involved. And in White House Down, it was just one of these lucky moments. We just got all the actors we wanted. We had a fantastic script, and then I had like these actors sometimes also like improvising because nobody does that anymore. In the studio pictures. On my sets, there's always a very loose atmosphere because you only get laughs when you like kind of try out a little bit and when you let your actors, go and then say, okay, let's do one totally free. Let's just say whatever you want. And when you have actors like Jamie Foxx or Channing Tatum or James Woods, you have just like incredible, talent there who is like able to do that.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a better duo at the movies this summer than Jamie Foxx and Channing Tatum. Just watching these guys, you want to watch them forever in this film. How did they get involved, and did you ask for them? Because I know Channing Tatum, everybody asked for him.
Channing Tatum did 2 movies for Sony, The Vow and 21st Jump Street, and they were both very successful. So he was very high on their list. And I said, I would like to meet the guy. And they said, okay, no problem, but you have to be fast because he's going like up the Amazon with his whole friends, right? And so I went, next flight to New York, and I met him. And it was just like one of these meetings where you immediately click. He's the coolest guy. He is humble. He's smart. And we talked about the movie, and he had a couple of reservations, and I said, they're my reservations too. We have to make this script just better, and you can trust me. When this script will not be like that, I will, drop out again. I'm pretty straight with actors because you have to. And he just, felt cool about it. And when I came out of this meeting, I called the Sony people and say, guys, we have a problem because this guy is perfect for this. And when he is not doing it, I'm really at a loss because I looked at my list of other actors and they were all good actors, but they had not what he had. He has just this kind of normality about him. And at the same time, he's extremely likable. And it was cool. And luckily, he said yes. And Jamie Foxx, I just always wanted to work with. I saw him in so many things, from, Ray to like kind of musical numbers like, these musicals he does. It's just amazing, this guy. And I also like kind of tend to to like to work with actors who have comedic talent. I always was drawn to them. Like, look at Independence Day. I mean, Jeff Goldblum and Will Smith, they're really funny, even in real life. And so it's just like kind of was, I mean, I met Jamie. He was still in his slave outfit. And I was like, so, okay, we have to work on the outfit. You have to be the president now. But he actually really liked that. So he said, oh my God, I can play a slave and the president the same year.
Speaking of the chemistry that Jamie Foxx and Channing Tatum have on screen, I think we have a clip, one of three. You can play the first one now. So one of the questions I had when I left White House Down is you're all over the White House in this. How true to real life is it? Do you have like the plans of the White House, and did you build your set based on that, or were you like, we need a bathroom here, so we're just going to put a bathroom there?
Well, the first thing what we did, we asked for a shooting permit, and they didn't give it to us. So we
They didn't let you film this at the White House?
No, yeah, well, I don't know, they didn't want to do that. What our idea was, we said like the whole movie is about the White House. The White House is some sort of a character in the film. So we like kind of, wanted to make it as accurate as possible from inside and from the out. And only a couple of things we didn't know. We had to come up with. There's all the secret rooms, Air Command Center, PIOC, all that stuff, because nobody knows how it looks. And a couple of sets, like this set you just saw, was the kitchen. The kitchen of the First Lady is way too small for an action movie, so we enlarged it a little bit. But otherwise, everything is exactly like how it is.
Same with those secret tunnels as well.
And we built nearly 60% of the interior of the White House.
Oh, wow, wow. I feel like compared, a lot of your movies, you have these giant landscapes to work with, cities, in some cases the entire world you're destroying. Here, it's almost like a home invasion thriller in a way, White House Down. How did you have to adjust your filmmaking style to a little bit of a smaller scale? There's a lot of intimate action in this versus sort of grand.
Yeah, well, that's why I also wanted to do it. It was just like a different kind of movie. I had never done a movie like that. And the only action movie, straight action movie I have done was in the, Universal Soldier. And it had slight science fiction elements. And this was like kind of the classical, hostage drama, action movie. And what I learned is, when I then analyzed it, it takes place over 3-4 hours, which is on top of it very difficult. So the timeline and that you just always have to know where everybody is, because it's a cat and mouse game, because there's like kind of two men have to survive in this house, which is full of terrorists. As you have to really, really know where everybody is. And there was constant discussions about that. There were constant plans out, already in the script phase, where I said we cannot do that because they have to go from here to there. They're like all these other guys. We cannot lie there. And so we had to invent a lot of things, to make that work, And I'm actually really quite proud how smooth it all goes.
Now, you're someone who has wrecked the White House on multiple occasions now. What's your relationship like with them? Do they have your picture out and they're like, don't let this dude near the house, or are they cool with you?
I actually was like surprised I don't have a photograph of me there, because they're saying a man who destroyed the White House the most. I mean, I think I deserve that.
I think. Yeah.
Now that I have American passport, come on. No, it's like just for me. You know what? It was a coincidence. As a 13-and-a-half-year-old, I stood in front of the White House because I was visiting with my American host family. I was there for summer vacation. Washington, stand in front of the White House, and it was really impressive for me. And when we were writing Independence Day, like we had to choose always like one building in every city where the beam comes down. And Dean said, well, the Capitol is the seat of the government. And I said, Dean, I don't know, but I like the White House better. And and Dean like kind of said, you cannot destroy the White House. I said, we'd like destroy whole America. I mean, come on. And I talked him into it. And that became then the signature shot of the film. You know, when the film came out on video, they left New York out and put the White House there. And it was also like kind of interesting when we cut the first teaser, and I'm always try to work on teasers myself, because I think filmmakers have a very good sense what the movie is really about. And I kind of ran the concept by them. Again, the Fox people said, you cannot blow up the White House. I said, it's in a movie, so, you know. And then like secretly I pulled up that shot, you know, because it was about shooting, what to shoot first, and we did it. And then I cut it, and when they tested it, it was like the highest testing thing they ever had.
Well, the exterior of the White House gets damaged in Independence Day. In White House Down, it's the interior of the White House that gets a little bit rough around the edges. Let's take a look at another clip. Seriously, if you don't go to see this film just on the fact that Jamie Foxx is the president and he sticks his head out of the window with a rocket launcher on the front lawn of the White House, I really don't know. You don't like summer movies. Speaking of summer movies, you know, you're someone who's been in the event movie for a long time. And how have you seen it evolve? I guess, let's say, since Independence Day. How has the tentpole movie, the event movie, the summer movie evolved, not just technologically, but do the audience expect more from these movies now than they did maybe back in 1996?
Yeah, it has changed. It has evolved. I think, and the interesting thing is, I saw a couple of films lately where I said, you know, they always call me the master of disaster. When you have seen Superman, you know, they do nothing else. You know, and when you see Iron Man 3, you know, I think what really happened was that every summer movie now tries to do destruction. I don't know why that is, you know, because for me, this sometimes, you know, is like another kind of strange concept is in Avengers, alien invasion. You know, in all these like superhero movies, they use now alien invasions. I think what happens is they try to pack everything in these movies, you know, because probably a superhero alone is not enough. And you know, it's a little bit. Another thing is, I think, you know, and maybe that's the audience. I don't know really, but how many you know, of these movies, you know, with superheroes do you want to see? And it seems like they're getting more and more successful, and nobody does really original programming anymore. I pride myself that, you know, that I'm like creating original programming. Independence Day was original. Day After Tomorrow was original. I mean, 2012 was original. White House Down is original in a way. So you know, and I'm a little bit upset, you know, that Hollywood is only like making movies with 2, 3, or 4, or 5, or 6 behind it. I mean, I'm not against it, but I think we're doing too much of these films, and I'm always like kind of then amazed or like really happy when something like World War Z performs well, you know, because it's original.
If you could go back into your filmography and just yank any film and to make it again today with today's technology, which one do you think it would be?
It's quite interesting. I'm like kind of now, you know, thinking a lot about, you know, my earlier movies. And it's actually Stargate and Independence Day, which I think could greatly, you know, profit from the new technology we have. It's just like, I mean, when I remember when I did Stargate and when I did Independence Day, I was always like limited. We had to do everything with models, you know. It was super complicated, super time-consuming. So that's why I actually want to reboot Stargate and do a sequel to Independence Day, because it's just because I think there's really something, for the audience new to create visually.
I think we have one more clip to show. So we just saw Jamie Foxx as the president speaking, and it also signals one thing I really like about this movie is that it is emotional, and there's a lot of heart in it, and there's a lot of really great character moments aside from rocket launchers on the front lawn of the White House. Has President Obama seen this movie? Does he want to see it?
I don't know. It's like it was like much easier for Clinton to see Independence Day because it was aliens. I don't know. That movie hits very close to home.
Imagine.
It's about a African American president who is under pressure. It's very much influenced probably by Obama. I don't think that Jamie plays Obama, but he knows him very well, and and we all were rooting for Obama. This was before his re-election, so I wouldn't mind, but I don't really expect it.
Speaking of influences, I want to go back with you now. Do you have a lot of your movies are about seeing them on the big screen. I think that's the best way to watch, especially White House Down and some of the other ones. What was the first movie you saw on the big screen? Do you remember?
It's really tough, because I don't know what was the first movie I saw on a big screen. I probably forgot. The first movie I consciously saw where I said, wait a moment, this is not only a movie, I want to do that too, or I had an inkling that this was a movie which was seminal for me. It was like a year before I saw the White House. I was 12 and a half and also in America with this family. I visited twice, 2 summers in a row, and they took me to a drive-in and we saw Planet of the Apes. I saw it in a drive-in and I couldn't believe it. I was like, first of all, that like you can drive on a parking lot, have this like kind of little, like loudspeaker in there. Terrible sound, by the way. And then they come and you can get food and stuff, and there's a movie in front of you, and I got really addicted to film, I think, at that moment, because it was a total wild story. It was a great concept. It had like iconic images. I mean, maybe my obsession with Statue of Liberty comes from there. And it was interesting. I wanted to pretty much every time this family asked me, so what do you want to do tonight? And I said, like, can we go back to this film? So I saw it like 3 or 4 times. Always somebody else had to go with me.
Have you seen the remakes of the White House Down? The Planet of the
I mean,
Apes?
actually, one of our actors, Jason Clarke, got hired to do the Charlton Heston part in the reboot.
Now, I don't know if Planet of the Apes was that one, but was there a film that made you want to do the big event movies? Was there one that just said after you saw it, you were like, I have to do it?
I think it was more in film school, where I like realized, what I really wanted. Because when I went to film school, which was very exclusive, they only like took 12 people or students a year, to study film. It was a very exclusive club, and so I had 11 colleagues, and they all wanted to become the next Fassbinder or the next Wim Wenders. And I realized all of a sudden I cannot, relate to these films. And, and I kind of spoke up, and I had the first, moments where I realized there's a huge divide, at that time at least was, in Germany, when you wanted to make commercial films, God forbid, films like Star Wars or Close Encounters or Poltergeist or E.T., they couldn't understand that somebody wanted to do that, and I wanted to do that. So I felt really like an outsider in Germany. I did 4 movies there. 3 of them already in English language because I had to finance them through America. And so I was like, and there I realized, wow, I want to kind of make these kind of movies, and I made them for a smaller budget in Germany until there was no, I hit a wall. And then luckily I got a call from America to come and direct the movie here. Luckily, because I was like at the end, of my rope, there. And that's when it like really hit me. Yes, you want to make big movies, I couldn't make them yet in Germany, but I had always this plan. Yes, I want to do one day something like that.
We're going to open it up to the audience for questions.
Hey, how you doing? Oh, first and foremost, I saw this 2 weeks ago, and I gotta say, you did a beautiful job.
Thank you.
Now, I have a question. Independence Day, I was 16, it was the year 96, and I will never forget when I saw it July 4th weekend, that movie blew me away. I saw that movie like 4 times. People look at me like, you paid that money to see that 4 times? I was like, hell yeah. Now, my question is, Independence Day 2, what took so long?
Maybe because the movie was, first of all, I was always against sequels. And I always was very outspoken about it. Secondly, maybe around 10 years ago, when it got a little bit like long already that, we didn't do a sequel. And trust me, they constantly asked us. I mean, it was just this moment when kind of Dean and I said, okay, let's write a script. Let's come up with something. And we came up with something. And when we looked at our own script, we said, no way, we cannot do that. It's not good enough. And we gave our money back. I think it's the first time in the history of Fox where they got like money back for a script. So after, a time, I realized all of a sudden, and it was actually when I shot 2012, I said, oh my God, there's a whole new level of visual effects. Now the first time you can really create destruction digitally. Because before it had always to be models, but now you can create it digitally. We did this huge earthquake sequence in LA, and it was all digital. And I kind of said to myself, wow, I think now I want to revisit the idea to do an Independence Day sequel. But because when I did the first one, I was constantly limited what I could do. And, and it was like a time where you could do nothing with water or anything. So now you can do something so incredible, I think, that the people will watch it again. But still, you have to come up naturally with the characters and everything. So we now decided to do a mix, half the old characters and half new characters. It was a very interesting experiment.
Hey, Mr. Emmerich, how you doing? My name's Tim Austin. I just graduated from college, and I'm working in broadcast production, but I want to get into film. I was hoping you could talk a little bit about your relationship with Reed Carolyn or any of the other producers and bring this vision to life.
Well, Reed, I just met on this film. He's like a super guy. I mean, it's like so great that Channing Tatum has a partner like that. Because I have always, had partners like that too, who really were looking out for me and are creative and are real, I brought my partner in. I could bring my partner in, Harald Klose, and then we teamed up with Jamie Vanderbilt and Brad Fisher and later their partner, and it was like we were quite a big group, It was, and it's the first time I didn't took a producer credit because there were already so many, and I said, well, I mean, I'm a gun for hire, I always say I'm only the gun for hire, because normally I always write and produce my movies, and but it was a cool group of people. And especially Jamie Vanderbilt is really has to be credited that this film even exists, because he just one day had this idea and sat down and wrote it on spec, which is very rare these days that writers do that. And I always was the most successful when I did that too. I had the idea to Independence Day. I didn't go to a studio and pitched it. No, I sat down with Dean Devlin at that time and wrote it, and then we, auctioned it out. Every studio wanted to have it, so we got really lucky. And the same thing I did with Day After Tomorrow, and I did it again with 2012. So you have to look at the White House down poster. There's 3 movies. They were all not developed by a studio, which is like something which I tell to every young person. Just sit down and write something, or find somebody who can write something, find a young director, and just do something. You just not sit around and discuss and kind of wonder endlessly, will this work or not work? Just do it, and then see what happens.
Hi. After you get your script and you read over it, what is your process of shot design?
I read the scripts again and again and again, and then slowly something like a movie forms in my head. And then I'm just instinctively, I sit with a storyboarder and explain to him how I see the scene. And that's most of the time not, I have sometimes very exact ideas of shots, and sometimes it's only like how I want to shoot it. And that's like I only do this for action scenes and for visual effects scenes. And then what we do is these days we have something called pre-visualization, and that got really, really good in the last years. And it has to be so good because these shots, most of the time, we finish them so late. So when you test a movie, when you go to a test of these big movies, what you most of the time see is very little finished shots, but like kind of a lot of these previous shots, which tell the story and pretty much are how the shot later will look only better. And so, but it's most of the time I shoot an inner movie. That's why it's great, because I don't have to think that much anymore when I'm actually shooting.
Hi, how you doing? I heard that you're going to be working on the TV version of Lawrence of Arabia. Could you talk about how you're going to tackle past life of T. Lawrence? Just curious on that.
Okay. Lawrence of Arabia is my favorite movie. And I was approached by an old friend of mine who had the idea to make it as a miniseries. And I first said, that's impossible. And then I realized over the last 2-3 years that TV has totally changed, that you can do really, really great stuff. And when we went, to 2 or 3, television production companies, and I said, I don't want to do this for networks. I wanted to do this for, and I realized that now there are a lot of companies out there who just finance very, very big, miniseries, and there can be 6, there can be 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours. It doesn't really matter. And then there is a huge market all over the world, for these things. And what we want to do is we want to show everything about Lawrence of Arabia, because what David Lean and Robert Bolt, the screenwriter, did, that took one episode. One episode of his life, and there is so much more about this man, to tell.
I just have a very brief question. Is Will Smith coming back in ID4? Is he coming back in Independence Day too?
Well, probably not. He got in the meantime very expensive. He's also like a really true star now, and when he shot the first Independence Day, he wasn't, and I think he would just also change a little bit the balance, but I hope that he will do a little cameo or something, to pass the torch, but I don't want to rely on that. I will offer it to him when the time is right, and then he can say yay or nay. But some other characters will come back, and I already have them on board. And
Can you tell us who those are?
It's Jeff, Bill Pullman, are on board. And so it is for me, you know, like kind of also there were Independence Day, as I said earlier, there is a whole other generation, you know, and I think there's so many great young actors out there these days. It's great to have like a next generation, you know, continue the fight.
Thank you. I've just got a question. It's a two-part question. Number one is, could you just talk about your trailer production process? You know, what sorts of things do you put in there? How does that go through? And the second bit was just, do you get involved in how your movies get marketed?
I do. I think every director of gets involved in that, most of the time at least. Even when you're a first-time director, another important one, they always want to involve you because naturally you have to sell the film and you have to be happy what they're doing. There's always a lot of discussions about it. I tend actually to work on my teaser trailers myself because I always think a filmmaker has a little bit more the insight what his film really is.
Thank you so much for coming out. Go see White House Down this weekend. Buy your tickets on Fandango and enjoy.